That night, the Sentinel and Vax shared a bed. Vax kept her calm. It was jarring, being dead and coming back so quickly. Though Vax had fallen asleep quickly, the Sentinel couldn't sleep. The Sentinel heard a mechanical flash coming from the living room. She sat up slowly, paranoid. She slipped out of bed and snuck into the living room. The Paradox Master stood in the room, waiting. "Why are you here?" the Sentinel demanded in a whisper. "I want to show you something." The Paradox Master stayed relatively quiet, not wanting to wake Vax. "Come with me." He gestured for the Sentinel. She stepped forward cautiously, wondering if what the Paradox Master was going to show her was anything resembling an apology. The Paradox Master held out his orange and yellow box and placed it on the ground. In a flash of light, he and the Sentinel appeared in the void lobby of the Extraverse, the plain white room with the 4 doors. He walked to the one on the far right and opened the door for the Sentinel. "What is this?" she asked. "My dimension." The Paradox Master led the Sentinel through the door. "My collection." The Sentinel looked around in awe at the vast expanse of shelves upon shelves containing piles of glowing revstones. The shelves lined invisible walls that made up the room. Sticky notes labeled several collections of shelves categorized by friends, foes, and all in between, and each pile of revstones were labeled individually. A special shelf lay at the very end of the room with only a few revstones on it. In the center of the room was a throne of rubble, and in front of it was a machine that looked like the box with a projector sphere floating above it. "Are these?" The Sentinel looked around. "Revstones. Some of them are people. Some of them are merely memories." "Sentinel, the human mind doesn't have enough memory for 5 million years worth of life. Sometimes I have to extract important memories myself so that I can look back at them later, remember who you are, what's going on. But that's not why I brought you here." The Paradox Master made his way to the shelf at the end of the room and picked up one of the stones. 5 years. He chuckled. "The best 5 years of your life and the best 5 of mine. Yet we both don't remember it. Can we?" The Sentinel asked curiously, staring at the stone with a thirst for reclaiming memory. "This stone is millions of years old. Not all of it is there anymore, unfortunately. But what's left? Let me see it," the Sentinel begged, her voice wavering. "Are you sure?" The Paradox Master looked up at her. "You said it yourself, I'm dying." The Sentinel choked on her words. "Let me see it before I'm gone. The more I watch the memory, the more it fades. This could be the last time," the Paradox Master warned. "All right," the Sentinel nodded. The Paradox Master held the stone from the shelf in front of him. He dropped the stone into the floating sphere above the box-like machine near his throne. The stone splashed into the sphere as if it were made of water, and the sphere glowed, shining light onto the walls like a projection until the whole room was transformed into somewhere else. "Where are we?" the Sentinel asked. "The memory of our first incarnation." The Paradox Master looked around. "Looks like we're meeting our new friends on IS-53. Their surroundings were vast rolling hills of bright blue sand dunes, and in the sky above were the 2.5 burning suns. The Sentinel stared ahead at the figures she recognized, though she never pictured them together like this. "I would very much appreciate if you got off my planet. I'm trying to deal with this Gar here." Daru, the Lyrinian that bought and sold planets, scolded the first Sentinel and the Paradox Master. "Why would a Gar want to buy land? You guys are pretty reserved if I'm remembering right," the Paradox Master of the memory observed. "I need it for the sand if I'm being honest," Kogar, the Gar, answered. "What's going on?" the Sentinel whispered to the Paradox Master standing near her. "We've been inserted into a memory. From the looks of it, we're meeting Kogar and Daru for the first time."
"Oh, you wanted the sand?"
Daru hesitated.
"About that."
"See, we're here because we got a distress call," one explained. "Something odd about this planet?"
"Right, yes.
Daru agreed nervously. "Why would you be calling us off this planet if you were the one that called us here in the first place?" the Paradox Master asked Daru.
"I need help killing the sand,"
Daru stated bluntly. "What?" One laughed, confused. "Kill the sand? Are you telling me what I think you're telling me?" Kogar pressed against Daru. "Is this planet—"
"A quadstella, yes."
Daru nodded.
A what?
Both the Sentinel and the Memory Sentinel looked up to their respective Paradox Masters for answers. The Paradox Master shrugged, not knowing. However, the Paradox Master from the Memory answered with confidence. "A living planet." "You were trying to sell this Gar a living planet without telling him?" "You were scamming me!" Kogar's eyes narrowed with anger. He swung his tail around and sprayed sand on Daru. "Trying to sell an original to another original. That's slavery. These planets are almost extinct. You know that." "Hey, no fighting." One stepped forward. Kogar spun his tail and hit one in the chest, flinging him into the blue sand where he face planted. "Gah! Ugh!" One tried to get the sand out of his mouth and face. "Come on!" He let out, annoyed. Daru shifted into his beastly form to fight Kogar, but quickly the Paradox Master blasted plasma into the air, yelling, "Stop!" Kogar, Daru, and the first Sentinel turned their attention to him. "What were you planning on doing with the Quadstella?" The Paradox Master questioned Daru.
"I claimed it by accident, not knowing what it was,"
Daru admitted.
"I just wanted to get rid of it."
"I knew the deal was too good to be true," Kogar scoffed. "And you really just wanted the planet for sand?" One asked Kogar. "It's a nice color," he shrugged. Would have been nice to decorate the town with. If you sold the Quadstella to a Gar, you know full well the thing would have tried to eat Illusiferum instead of what?
Loron.
Dario shifted his bulbous eyes away. You were sparing your planet at the expense of another? One asked. Dick move. The Paradox Master crossed his arms.
So what now? Are you going to punish me?
Dario asked. I still want that sand, though. Kogar protested. We could kill the Quadstella, make it a dormant planet, one suggested. It's one of 2 left in the universe, the Paradox Master pointed out. I'm not killing a creature with barely a brain just because it feeds on planets.
What if I told you that it's headed for Loron?
Daru pointed out. Okay.
Which is near Ilsos.
Daru elaborated. Alright. The Paradox Master continued. One looked back and forth between all of them, not understanding a word that was being said.
Now, if a Quadstella ate a gas planet that large, the damage that could be done, the lives that would be lost.
Okay, alright. We'll kill the planet. The Paradox Master wasn't happy with his decision. What's this memory supposed to be showing me? The Sentinel asked the Paradox Master. I don't get it. It's not supposed to be showing you anything. It's just what's left of the stone. The day we met Kogar and Daru. The landscape of the memory shifted and distorted like static on a television, and as if it switched channels, their surroundings changed completely. There's been a shift in memory. It looks like the connecting one is missing. The Paradox Master looked around. Where are we? I don't remember this place. Albuquerque. The Sentinel answered. She stared ahead at Kogar sitting in his human form at the table, looking out at a stage where the first Sentinel and the Paradox Master stood. This one goes out to Amara, the Paradox Master announced into the microphone. I miss you. Amara. The Paradox Master, watching the memory, stepped back as his heart skipped. And for Matrona, the first Sentinel announced. I'll be home soon, he promised. They soon began singing a song from another time, confusing some of the people in the bar. The Sentinel and the Paradox Master watched the memory with the same empty feeling in their chest, as if they were missing something. Even seeing the memory now didn't help. This was a part of their lives they wouldn't be able to get back. Not fully. The Sentinel and the Paradox Master finished their song, and one began to leave the stage when the Paradox Master announced, Thank you, Albuquerque. They both went over to the table where Kogar sat and sat next to him. You guys were good. For humans, Kogar teased. Oh, come on, like you could do better. One punched him in the shoulder lightly. You know, I really enjoy your guys' company. Truly. As a Gar, I extend a hand of gratitude to you for accepting me. Thank you. The Paradox Master nodded. Yeah, we should do this again sometime. One smiled. Yes. Kogar agreed. Hey, Kogar, if you don't mind me asking, what do you know about plasma? One asked Kogar. Kogar's smile grew wide. The memory faded and they were back in the Paradox Master's dimension. They turned their attention to the memory machine and watched as the revstone cracked and the color drained from it. That's it. The Paradox Master spoke softly. It's gone. I need to know more. The Sentinel looked up to the Paradox Master, hoping he was hiding some trick up his sleeve. I'm sorry I lashed out. The Paradox Master said. About you and Vax. I just didn't want you to turn out like me. I'm not an immortal emissary. I'm sort of the exact opposite of immortal right now. I'm dead as it is. I promise I won't turn out like you. The Sentinel assured him. Good. The Sentinel stood around, looking around at all the shelves of the Paradox Master's room in the Extraverse when she had a thought. You said this was your own dimension? She asked. Yeah. This one's mine. The Paradox Extraverse. Life and death share the existence Extraverse. Celeste has the Plasma Extraverse, and the main Extraverse is Times. These have always been here? The Sentinel asked. Mine's been revamped since I became part of the Extraverse, but yes. They just had a room available for you? The Sentinel asked, confused as to why that would be the case. Yeah, I never really thought about it all that much before. The Paradox Master scratched his chin. Huh. A thought popped into the Paradox Master's mind for a moment before he began to weigh his options. I'm gonna go back to sleep now. The Sentinel gestured toward the door with her thumb over his shoulder. Wait. The Paradox Master held out his hand. There's one more thing I want to show you. He walked back to another shelf with purpose in his step. Between piles of stones labeled under the category The Broken Universe and The Paradox Master was a single stone. The Paradox Master grabbed the stone and came back to the machine. Alright. The Sentinel wondered where this was going. The Paradox Master dropped the stone into the floating sphere, and a projection took over the room once more. This memory is Death's. I requested it so that I could know what happened to me. It informed my process of creating the broken universe. The memory faded in.
Time. Someone has been calling himself the Paradox Master without permission.
Celeste mumbled in his throne of glowing purple fire and crystals, speaking to Time. I am aware. Time responded. I have been keeping watch on him, through the eyes of a human with whom he travels alongside. Would you like to see the man? She turned her featureless head toward Celeste. The galactic spiral shifted slightly inside her head. Celeste hesitated before asking,
Do you think he could be a valid replacement for
Celeste? He is the only replacement. Time interrupted.
Death?
Celeste turned his attention to Death.
Bring him in.
Death nodded and vanished in a puff of black smoke. He appeared perched on top of a broken wall, watching as the fifth Sentinel sat down in his rubble throne on the dead planet Earth in the ruins of his lab. This image of the Sentinel's past life was familiar to the Sentinel watching. She had been there years ago, trying to determine how to continue living after the Galactic War had finally ended. The fifth Sentinel had to make a crucial decision, arguably the most important decision in the history of the universe. He sat down, inspecting his box. "What kind of Sentinel am I?" 5 asked it.
"You should know,"
the box responded. Death watched curiously. "That's the problem. I don't." 5 lowered his head into the box. "What do I do?"
"What do you think is best to do? Do you embrace death, fear it, or laugh in the face of it?"
5 took a deep breath, thinking over his options. He knew he'd programmed both Code 5 and Code 6. He did this to limit himself to those options, but he simply couldn't choose. "I can't do it." "What is this?" The Sentinel asked the Paradox Master. "That's not what happened." "Watch," the Paradox Master insisted. The fifth Sentinel let go of the box and let it float up to his shoulder as he stood. "I'm not a Sentinel anymore, that's for sure. And even though this is all over, I just can't stop being..." The fifth Sentinel hesitated. "I'm the Paradox Master," he scolded the box. "Are you now?" Death chuckled. He flapped his wings and flew down to the rubble throne, perching on top. "Holy knock next time!" The fifth Sentinel held his hand to his chest in fear. "Why are you here?" "This isn't true," the Sentinel whispered to the Paradox Master. "To your reality." The Paradox Master watched idly. "You call yourself a Paradox Master without an inkling of an idea of what that entails, and yet..." Death paused. "What?" 5 asked. "You do it so well." Death hissed. "Time would like to meet with you, if that's all right." Death held out a wing of welcome to the fifth Sentinel. "All right?" He hesitated before resting his hand on Death's wing. In a puff of black smoke, the two of them appeared in the Extraverse, standing before Life, Time, and Celeste. Time looked down at the Sentinel. "A Paradox Master," Time's ethereal voice boomed. "Would a human have what it takes?" She asked rhetorically. "You seem to have proven yourself." "Okay." 5 looked around confused. He spotted an empty throne made of silver, orbited by small planets, sitting beside Celeste. "Would you like to be a Paradox Master?" Time asked. "What's the catch?" 5 asked. "You would live forever," Time answered, "as long as you stayed an emissary." The fifth Sentinel looked down, thinking about his life. He figured out what kind of Sentinel he was, and he determined that he wasn't one. He didn't laugh in the face of death or embrace it, no, he feared it. Living forever sounded like just the thing he needed, and so without much hesitation, he accepted. Celeste lifted his arms and stretched them, and without touching the empty throne, it pushed itself back, away from all the others. Time lifted a fist, and in the empty space, a throne of rubble, identical to the one from 5's lab, sprouted up in its place. The fifth Sentinel sat down hesitantly and looked around. "So that's it, huh? I'm the Paradox Master?" he asked. Death flew to him and slammed his wings together in front of him. A shockwave of darkness shot through the fifth, and out the other end of him blasted a shockwave of white flaming substance, which trailed its way to Life and into her feathers. The fifth Sentinel held his chest and breathed heavily, looking up at Time with questioning eyes. "Welcome to the emissaries, Paradox Master." Her voice boomed with an ethereal passiveness. The Paradox Master snatched the Revstone from the floating orb and the memory faded, snapping the Sentinel back into her reality. She shook her head, almost forgetting she was watching a memory. Her eyes widened as they met the Paradox Master, who calmly, and with a cold look on his face, put the stone back on the shelf. "The human Time was talking about watching you... us... with..." She was talking about Amara, right? How she used her and possessed her, it was just to keep an eye on me? On you? "Yes." The Paradox Master shuffled his feet and cleared his throat. "Embrace it, laugh in the face of it, or fear it," the Sentinel spoke up. "Do you ever regret your decision?" she asked. The Paradox Master stopped in his tracks and closed his eyes. "After millions of years of living, I want nothing more than to die." He looked up. "I regretted every waking moment. You and Vax are happy together. I could have been you. Code 5 was a cycle of a life that was, for the most part, enjoyable. And if you don't think I regret my decision every day of my life, then you're mistaken. But no, someone had to do this job." "And it had to be you?" the Sentinel asked. "Go home." The Paradox Master stepped forward and the door behind the Sentinel opened. "I hope you guys are happy together. You deserve it." The Sentinel smiled, a bit surprised at the Paradox Master's change of heart. "Thank you." She grinned, however still worried for the Paradox Master. The Paradox Master stood, stone-faced. The Sentinel walked through the door and appeared in her room again. She slowly got back in bed with Vax as quietly as she could manage. "Did you have a nice trip?" Vax whispered. "You were awake?" the Sentinel asked. "Why was the Paradox Master here?" "Don't worry about it." The Sentinel wrapped her arm around Vax. "It's fine." After the Sentinel had left, the Paradox Master was filled with a certain uncomfortable dread. Regret pained him, and a phantom air of sadness followed him. He couldn't figure out why. Pieces of him were missing. He felt the sting of a past he couldn't remember. The Sentinel and the Paradox Master used to be one. More than that, the Sentinel and the Paradox Master used to be friends. Best friends. They both don't remember. The Paradox Master paced around in his room of the Extraverse. He looked across shelves, repeatedly slapping his forehead with his palm. He was forgetting something. There was something else. He had exhausted the stone containing the memories of those 5 years away. The memories extracted from the first Sentinel, that is. Something clicked. His own memories were in that room, waiting for him. There was something he still needed to do. There was a purpose to those 5 years, a mission, something that Kogar needed to do. There was something that Daru needed to do. There was something that the Paradox Master needed to do. Everyone's journey had ended, and yet the Paradox Master still remained with unfinished business. He needed to find that stone. He trailed his finger along the edge of the shelf, reading the labels. The Quantum Brothers, the Earth Evacuation, Kaglos. He muttered to himself, desperately searching. There. The Savior Mission. He plopped a stone into the projector. The room filled with light and shifted. The Sentinel had recognized the Albuquerque bar, where the Paradox Master didn't. He needed a refresher on both his past and his unfinished business. The Paradox Master sat on his throne and watched as a memory played out before him. It was a typical night out for the Sentinel during his time in those 5 years away, the years he knew he would forget in due time. Knowing his destiny, knowing that in a few short years all the good times would be lost, the Sentinel decided to ignore it for nights like these. He decided that it didn't matter if he remembered the fun he had, so long as he had fun to begin with. The first Sentinel smiled knowingly, content with his fate. The Paradox Master, viewing the memory, chuckled. He had missed this feeling. In the memory, the Sentinel and the Paradox Master laughed at one of Kogar's stories as he reminisced about lab experiments gone awry and bets and dares he played on his colleagues and friends. The Sentinel didn't consider himself narcissistic, but he couldn't help but pay closer attention to the Paradox Master's stories whenever he told them, knowing that one day he would become him and live out those tales. The Paradox Master often told his own stories aloud to his friends in order to cement them in his memory. It didn't always work. Did I ever tell you about that living bubble I met once? The Paradox Master in the memory asked, cracking a smile. Yes, and we didn't believe you, Kogar teased. Kogar, how many times do I have to explain to you how infinite universes work? I'm not lying. Sure, the Sentinel teased. Okay, what haven't I told you guys? Come on, work with me. The Paradox Master chuckled as he tapped his head. You know how my memory is these days. How are we supposed to tell you what you haven't told us? Kogar laughed. How would we know? There are flaws in your reasoning, old man. The Sentinel punched the Paradox Master in the shoulder. As the friends bantered and snacked on fries, their usual waitress approached with their drinks. The Paradox Master, watching the vision, sat up. A spark flickered in his mind. This was important. Here you are, gentlemen. Thank you. Kogar bowed. Much appreciated. The Paradox Master nodded. The Sentinel didn't say anything as he was busy eating some fries. When the waitress dropped off a drink in front of the Sentinel, a slip of paper dropped from her fingers and landed on the Sentinel's plate. The Sentinel picked it up as she walked away. The Paradox Master smiled and slapped Kogar on the shoulder to get his attention. He pointed at the paper now in the Sentinel's hands. What? Kogar smiled. I don't get it. She gave me her phone number, the Sentinel said, confused and oblivious. Why would you do that? I don't have a rotary phone. She doesn't know that, dummy. The Paradox Master laughed. I don't get it. What's going on? Kogar asked. Classic example of human romance, the Paradox Master explained. No, the Sentinel denied. Oh ho ho! Kogar hopped in his seat and clapped his hands. Research! He declared as he retrieved a tiny notebook from his pocket alongside a pen. He clicked it and shot a piercing glaze at the Sentinel. Tell me, how do you feel right now? Oh my god. The Sentinel hid his face in his hands. Embarrassed, the Paradox Master said, looking over Kogar's shoulder. Write that down, he pointed. Embarrassed. Kogar sounded it out as he wrote it in the garish alphabet on his notepad. The Sentinel glanced up from his embarrassment and caught a glimpse from the waitress behind the bar. She winked at him. The Sentinel shot back an awkward smile, and the waitress laughed. You're the worst. The Sentinel pointed down the Paradox Master. I'm you. The Paradox Master smiled. Ugh. I'm not too versed in human behavior, but this seems rather juvenile, Kogar noted accurately. I can't call her. The Sentinel pulled at his hair. I'll update the box, make it able to access landlines, no stress, the Paradox Master said. No, come on, no, I mean I can't call her. How do I explain all this? The Sentinel gestured rather vaguely to himself, the Paradox Master, and Kogar. The Paradox Master held up his hands. Hey man, I'm just trying to hook you up. The Sentinel looked off back at the bar. The waitress held her hand to her head and mimicked a phone call as she mouthed the words, call me. You know, come to think of it, the Paradox Master continued, we don't have much stuff on our to-do list for the next couple weeks besides what Daru's up to. You can stay here for a bit. I can set up a temporary living situation for you easily. What has gotten into you? Do you really want to drag someone else into all this mess? Watching the memory, the Paradox Master squinted. His head pounded, trying to remember why he was so adamant about this. His memory counterpart responded, "Well, it isn't someone random. I'd say we're friends with her enough. We've been here quite a bit." "You don't even know her name," the Sentinel argued. "Laura Sanchez," the Paradox Master countered. Sitting in his throne, the Paradox Master recoiled and whispered under his breath, "Sanchez." "Ooh, burn." Kogar hit the Sentinel. "Don't." "Maybe this guy should be the one calling that number." Kogar hit the Paradox Master. "Okay, no." The Paradox Master shook his head. "Just, no." Kogar looked over at the Sentinel. "So, what's your move, hotshot?" "Look, guys, I came here to have fun with the boys, alright? Not to ruin some waitress's life." The Paradox Master leaned back in the booth and crossed his arms. "Putting a lot of weight on your importance there, pal. You know it's not unfounded." The Paradox Master rolled his eyes. He leaned forward and rested his arms on the table. "But you can't leave her hanging, you know. That's rude." "Ugh, if I didn't know any better, I'd say you planned this." The Sentinel pointed at the Paradox Master. "You know me so well." The Paradox Master smiled. Watching the memory, the Paradox Master slumped in his seat. He held his head. A stone glowed on a shelf nearby. The memory continued. The Paradox Master's smile faded as he cleared his throat. "But no. Not this time." Kogar finished some notes and looked up at the Sentinel. "I don't get what she sees in you," he mumbled. "Kogar!" The Sentinel turned to him. "What?" "Okay, yeah, that was mean." The Paradox Master shook his head. The friends continued bantering back and forth, and the Paradox Master watched the memory distantly, feeling a vague sense of nostalgia, but was distracted by an overwhelming air of disconnection to his past. While Kogar and the Sentinel grew less aware of themselves as the night went on, becoming less and less coherent with their banter, slurring their words and laughing at anything, the Paradox Master sat back. He caught a glimpse of Laura, the waitress, beckoning for him to come to her. He got up and sauntered up to the bar. He sat himself down in a stool and waited for Laura's question. "Is he going to call, do you know?" Laura asked, pushing her hair behind her ear. "Probably not, I hate to break it to you." "I thought you said he was interested in me." Laura feigned betrayal, holding her hand over her heart and flipping her hair dramatically. "You liar," she joked. "It's not that. He doesn't have a phone," the Paradox Master explained. "Does he have a house?" Laura chuckled. "He's an elusive guy, I tell you that. Can't tie him down for too long." "Mark my words, I will," Laura said. The Paradox Master laughed and took a sip of his drink. He looked off at the booth, at his friends laughing. He raised his drink at his friends. They struggled to raise theirs back, clinking their glasses together. A faint beeping rang in the Paradox Master's ear. The invisible box sneakily alerted him to something. "Well, I think it's about time we head out." The Paradox Master casually added to the conversation. "We'll be seeing you around, Laura." "How'd you guys meet? You seem like a weird bunch." "It's a long, very complicated story. We wouldn't have time to explain it in even 10 more nights like these." Laura smiled as she cleaned a glass. "Well, I'll be seeing you around soon, then." The Paradox Master led the Sentinel and Kogar out of the door of the diner, and as soon as they were out of sight, a mechanical flash signaled their departure. The memory faded away. The Paradox Master snatched the stone and held it. A tear rolled down his cheek. "I'm sorry, Sentinel," he mumbled to himself. Regret stabbed at his heart. Relationships never seemed to work out for the Sentinel. Happiness never seemed to last. It was always the Paradox Master's fault. He hoped that this new Sentinel would break that cycle. He hoped that Vax could bring the change that the Sentinel needed. She needed friendship now more than ever. The Paradox Master took out a sticky note and wrote down the name, Sanchez. He stuck the note onto his throne and moved on to another stone. He tossed it into the projector and sat back to watch. He needed to remind himself of his purpose.